All right, I think we might be here. Hello.
Think it's working?
I don't know. Do you know your info?
No.
Um,
It's broken.
all right, one more try.
Okay.
Maybe.
It's on Facebook.
I don't think. Nope. All right, well, you better start talking.
All right. Well, technical difficulties like normal with anything technological, but we are hosting a live event, and looks like it's only going to feed on Facebook at the moment. Maybe we'll get that link to pop up a little bit later, but we can always repost it on Instagram when we get the chance. So welcome if you're following us and tagging in. We do appreciate you following along. This is kind of the idea of a small little happy hour, little hour session. You can ask questions, do whatever you'd like. I'm going to enjoy a beer while I do this and hope that I get some good questions. We got a couple that are already downloaded from before, from something, from Instagram and Facebook. People submitted questions that we're going to be able to make it to the event.
Oh, technology. There we go.
There we go. Get it. Yeah, Facebook's just running a little farther behind at the moment. There we go. All right, cool. So yeah, thanks if you're following or checking it out or watching or anything like that. Hopefully I don't make too much of a dummy of myself. I am happy to answer any questions that you want to ask. And I do have a couple that were already labeled up through Instagram and Facebook. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll to a couple of those in just a second. It is happy hour. I am drinking a local brewed beer here from Beard's Brewery. Green Hundo. I don't know if anybody's ever had this, but it is a very delicious beer. I've definitely enjoyed it a couple times now. I had it first time in the summer at poolside at my sister-in-law's house, and it's been fantastic ever since. It's really good cold. So we'll roll off with the first question from Lance Baxter. I don't know where he's from, but he wanted to know what material is the blue translucent stuff made of. That is just the epoxy that we use to seal the board as it is anyways. We use Resin Research in a couple different applications of the boards for adhering the frames together and adhering the skins to the frames. And then we use it to embed our fiberglass that goes all the way around the boards. So in particular, He's talking about the blue in our river boards and our Aztecs and stuff. So this translucent area, you'd also ask, how can it be translucent all the way through? It's because we have split the frame and put ribs going that way on the side of a 7-inch gully. And then we have glass on the interior of that skin and glass on the exterior of that skin. Our skins are only an 1/8 inch thick. So when you glass the inside and you glass the outside like that, it's called the bridging technique in engineering. Kind of like 2 layers of rebar in concrete. It's really hard to compress one and stretch the other one. So that's what gives us our strength with having such a thin substrate of the wood that we make, that natural wood. And then the epoxy is the same thing. It's 1/8 inch. Epoxy is actually stronger than wood because wood has grain and everything else, and it's unpredictable on how it breaks. So the epoxy is a little bit stronger, which works out nice for doing things like that. And then we can do that in multitudes of colors. Obviously, you can see like the copper one right there, and then the blue, and then there's a whole different blue. It's kind of hard to tell when the light's shining through them, but they're like really wavy. There's little speckles of like sparkles and stuff like that in there, and different undertones of color. Sometimes there's some grays and stuff that flip up through it. Same thing in like our charcuterie boards. When we build those, we put that pigment in there and swirl it up, and it makes a really cool textured pattern to it all without harming the epoxy in any way. And those come in multiple colors, but I kind of get attracted to the blue ones more than anything. The copper ones are really cool when the light's not shining through it. It's a really cool looking, like almost like a copper penny that's been smooshed around and swirled up. So hopefully that answers his questions. Next questions. Do you have a favorite type of board shape? Comes from Chris out in North Carolina. I like every board. Obviously, being in Northern Michigan and that being a paddleboard company, it originated as the whole idea of when I started paddleboarding back in 2012. There wasn't that many paddleboard companies back then. You know, it wasn't inundated the way it is now with all the blow-ups and everything else, and you know, Costco boards and all the above. Boards were really expensive. Like, you know, a average board was $1,400 to $1,700. And the first one I ever rode was $2,400. I didn't buy it. It was my brother-in-law's. And I rode it and I really enjoyed going out. It was a peaceful way to get out on the water and escape society for a little bit. So when I wanted to learn how to build boards, because I couldn't afford to buy a board, I looked into different things on Google, and you could build hollow wooden surfboards. And there was a couple hollow wooden paddle boards out there, but they were really heavy and not very cool looking and whatnot. So I decided to build a surfboard for my daughter, Shawnee. At the time, she was 9 years old. She's 21 now. And I built it for her, and it was a cool looking board. And that was it. It was just kind of fun. I was like, all right, I know how to do it. I'll build one for myself, and then we'll have a family of boards, you know, so we can go out and enjoy the beach in the summer. And after that board, everybody kept asking about the board all the time. So it became more and more and more of this thing that I thought maybe I could make a little bit of money at and get some Christmas money if I could build one and sell it. So I did that to like a family friend or something. And then, and then I built another one and another one. And then my sister-in-law, Amy, was in a store one time, and she made a comment to the lady at the store that aesthetically one of my wooden boards would look really good in her store. And that created a conversation that went on to the owner. And then I kind of got like a small sponsorship from that owner. She helped me develop building a couple more boards. And at that time, I didn't really know what I was doing. And I talked my face off and said that I did. And I guess that's how you achieve things. Sometimes you got to, you know, step into the role that you created for yourself. And I talked to Paul Jensen. He's the inventor of the hollow wooden surfboards, modern day hollow wooden surfboards, the engineering of the framing techniques that we use. And I befriended him by just, you know, bugging him enough to the point where he finally got tired of hearing all my questions and started answering very shortly, some of them. And then I'd bring up, you know, family lifestyle. And he was a carpenter. I was a carpenter, single income family, raising kids, all that, you know, what's important in life, and how I thought that maybe designing a paddleboard would make sense for my area. He built surfboards out west. And I thought, you know, paddleboards in Michigan would go a lot better than surfboards. We don't really do that much surfing around here. So I started rolling with paddleboards, and he helped me out greatly. Nonstop all the time. I texted him or emailed him literally every day for months and on end. trying to figure this out. And I created a royalty agreement with him, and he supplied me a designed frame. And I would use that design frame to build boards for this lady's store. And then she had a couple clients and some friends and stuff like that. And that kind of got me up and going. Started the whole thing. My wife named the company Little Bay Boards. I was going to call it Mini Haha Boards. It's named after a native name for a local river that we have. But she ixnayed that, and she thought of Little Bay Boards, and I thought that was a really cool name, and I'll try that out. So then I started building paddle boards. And the whole agreement was never step on Paul's feet. He builds surfboards, I build paddle boards, gentleman's handshake. He got a little royalty off the boards that I sold from his frame design. About a year into that program, I decided that the overhead of having to pay the lady at the store wasn't really broadening my horizon of the amount of clientele that I could get. It was pretty limited. Those boards at the time were really expensive at like $4,000. I think we were selling them for. So I asked if it was okay if we stopped that contract that we had, which was just another gentleman's contract, a handshake, friends in a small town. So with that, I canceled that. And at the time I had modified Paul's frame so many different ways and so many different times to better adapt to the tools that I had and techniques that I wanted to try to use. And I was trying to figure out how to make them lighter and stronger and all kinds of different things. Then I didn't have to do my royalty with Paul anymore. And he just helped endorse me and, just kept my word out there and, my name out there and was telling other people about me. And, off I went. Got a Facebook page from a good friend of mine named Willow, who told me about Facebook pages. I had no idea what they were. She popped that up, and that started to gain traction. And things just kept going and going and going. Year after year after year, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. I appreciate some of you guys tagging in here. I'm starting to see some comments coming in. Nellie's behind the scenes for Facebook user. I don't see the name on that one, but she's just right around the corner right there, listening to everything that I say, make sure the cameras work, and she'll pop up here every once in a while if something weird happens. She was trying to get this to go live via all of our socials, and there seems to be a link problem to get it onto Instagram. We're on YouTube though, apparently, yeah. So, but Instagram isn't coming up live at the moment, but that's not a big deal. Anyways, so yeah, back to that original question. I did paddle boards because we could use them, and I really enjoyed them. I've gotten to the point now where Paul has retired after teaching me almost everything he knows. I don't know. He probably has some things in his back pocket that I don't get to hear about. But we had a gentleman's agreement when he retired that I would take over building his surfboards. And it's been a little over a year now, and I haven't really done too much with it. He's given me a couple templates, and I've dabbled in it. But I've just been busy with boards and company and all the business that come up with that kind of stuff. But we did start making the 5'9" fish, which was originally designed by Steve Lish in '72. And we have a template that Paul made for it out of wood. And then we started redesigning it. And then I just started obviously tricking it all out and making it all kinds of different, because I always want to do everything artistically and crazy. But it's probably one of my more favorite designs just because of the appeal of the shape and everything to it. It's got such a texture and blend of how it's shaped and how it performs, and it's a universal surfer. It'll go anywhere. This one's translucent in the center because we did that river thing that we do on the other ones back there. But I've definitely been fond of that one as of late. So we do wakeboards that are cool shapes, but I guess ultimately I'm always more partial to my personal paddleboard design, our all-arounder shape. It took me years to perfect that and make it the way that I really was happy with how it rode. There was all kinds of micro adjustments and bigger adjustments and tail. I raised the rocker on it so it performed better in the Great Lakes here locally. And then I adjusted the rail system, so it's almost a hybrid rail system. It's a 50-50 with a displacement on it too to help with pathway, get you going well. Widened it out a little bit more, thickened it up, so it's really stable, so I'm always comfortable when I'm out there. And was able to keep the board still really light while adding all these things of performance to it. And then I was able to incorporate the art into it as time went on. I got better and better and better at how artistic we could make the boards. Obviously, they started to turn out like this. So I guess that would be my favorite, would be the paddle boards, really, when it comes down to shape. Next question. How different is the process of creating a custom board compared to the stock boards? Well, stock boards, I just get to think of whatever I want to think of and just build it. And, we consider these stock boards just because they're built here in-house and we think of an idea and design it out. Any of these ones like the stained glass and this Aztec and that Aztec way over there on the side are not my idea. Those are Clarky's idea. Clarky's a behind the scenes worker. He deserves to be famous for everything that he does for this little company. He's a fantastic board builder in a lot of ways. But our custom boards, it starts with the client calling us saying, we have an idea for a board and we'd like to think about talking to you about it, price, obviously budget and so on and so forth. And then I'll get their ideas. Sometimes it starts with like a tattoo on their arm that they're really fond of, and they'll send us a picture of it. And from there, we'll figure out a way to lay it out on the board so that it looks nice or something like that. And then sometimes we get clients where they have a graphic designer, like the Grateful Dead board that's been really popular lately. It's up there on the wall back there. That started out as a graphic design that Casey from the Humble Design Co., I believe he's out in Colorado, designed this up for us. And then Nelly had to take it and vector this all out and all these different things. And then all that gets programmed into cut sheets. And the cut sheets are kind of hard to see because they're in ink. And you see it's all this little detail, and these name off the squares of wood that we need to build. And then she cuts it all out on a laser, and then we take that like a giant jigsaw puzzle and put it all back together to make that particular board back there, which was a custom order designed by their designer. We've had people approach us about Grateful Dead boards before. Obviously, it's a really popular thing to have. We've done Jerry Bears on boards and big lightning bolt down the whole board and stuff like that, but nothing of that detail was really quite extensive. How many hours went into it just in design alone, and then all the other things we had to do. Vanessa Clark just chimed in with, tell us about the laser. That's a good question. Laser is what does all the really hard work. Back 4 years ago, we didn't have a laser, and we cut everything by hand. And I'd cut everything with a razor knife. And then as time went on, we were able to get the investments and the needs to purchase a laser. First laser we purchased was American made. Didn't work out quite as well as we wanted it to. I always endorse trying to get U.S. made products for everything that we do, just to make my dad proud, I guess. And first laser we ended up having to send back after 29 days, which is not the easiest feat in the world. We have a large format laser. That one in particular was like 12 feet long and 9 feet wide. It was huge, and cost more than most people's houses. Sending it back wasn't easy. We had to take half the wall off the shop to get it into the shop. So then after due diligence, we started shopping around and found Trotec lasers, fantastic laser company. They're out of Austria, but they do have United States locations. Plymouth, I think Houston, Texas, and maybe one out in California. I forget where they're all at. But a really nice laser company, and a lot of their components were components that were in any of the American-made lasers. So basically, they had invented a lot of the processes of how these machines worked. So we figured, why not go with the people that designed it and invented it all? So we had one built for us in Austria and then sent to us like 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, or something like that. It came
on the freighters.
Yeah. During the freighter shutdown and everything like that, we had to have it sent to Canada and then hop a train and then come down here and then hop on a semi and then come in. But fantastic company. They were professional as professional could be. They showed up before, like 3 months before, to make sure our room was prepared and ready, and met with our mechanical engineers and our electric engineers and everything, and really got the program going really well. And from the time that box showed up to our delivery door, 3 days later, we were cutting things on the laser. It's all components. They put it all together. A guy showed up, another guy showed up later that day, and then a third guy showed up the second day, and they just built this giant laser system. So it's a SP3000. It's 10'6" by 7'6". So we can fit the whole length of a board into the machine, and then it's oversized wide, so that we can do other things too, sheets of plywood or, large signs or anything like that. It's a fantastic machine. It cuts at like 0.004 of a millimeter when you program it right, and cuts extremely fast. It can raster things. It's unbelievable. We can basically just make our own jigsaw puzzles, which is what we specialize in, as far as taking different color woods, cutting them all down, and putting them all back together in different colors to make our beautiful art. You know, a lot of times the laser does that. A lot of times we can do a lot of stuff still by hand. Any straight cuts are done by hand. We don't let the laser do that. There's no point in programming that kind of stuff. We can just do it. But yeah, it's a really cool laser, and I appreciate you asking about that, Vanessa. On to the next question. Where are some of the fun places you have shipped boards to? LTL freight is kind of an expensive thing, and our products are kind of expensive and large, so they have to go LTL freight, which is semi. And it's been kind of a damper. Sometimes it's really good, and we ship, you know, I don't know, a dozen boards a year at times. We've had better years than that, and we've had slower times than that also. The most unique fun board that I can think of is I had to ship 2 boards. This is back in the day when I was still in a garage before, you know, all this big industry, before lasers and everything. I shipped 2 boards to Switzerland, Lake Champlain in Switzerland, custom built boards. I had met these people. They'd found out about me through a local store that had my boards hanging in it and came and met me. This guy was this French guy. He was really awesome. He was funny. He walked right into my garage, cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he's like 6'8", you know, big burly man. And he, Jason, come here, and he kisses you on this cheek and kisses you on that cheek and hugs you real tight, pulls you away and hugs you again and kisses you again. He was really excited about the whole program, and it was really fun to meet him and his wife. And we talked about boards for a while, and she designed a board for her and her son. And I built them, boxed them all up, and shipped them out to Switzerland with the help of a international shipping company called Ship Lily. And then the boards got stuck in Germany, wouldn't make it past border there. And Ship Lily was really nice about helping me all out with that. And they had to open the boxes up and prove that there was only just paddle boards in there, and we weren't shipping guns or drugs or anything like that. It was a weird thing, but they took care of it all. And it was only like a 3-week delay of that actually having to happen. And then they got their boards in Switzerland. So that was kind of a cool one. And we got a board out in Australia too, but I didn't technically ship that there. It was a local lady in Harbor Springs that purchased the board and had it taken with her container when she had moved to Australia. So we got a board out there. And then we shipped like Nova Scotia and British Columbia and all over Canada and almost every state in the United States, it feels like, besides a couple of the smaller ones. I don't think we've hit New Hampshire yet, but we've done like Martha's Vineyard area and Hamptons and stuff like that, and New York all the way down the coast and over on the West Coast, all those states. I've been really fortunate, really lucky to get our name out there. It's the greatest thing about the internet and Google and stuff like that. A small little company in a small, tiny little town in northern Michigan can actually reach vastness of, you know, the world. So it's been quite the blessing to have that reach and be able to ship them out when we can. The Grateful Dead board ships to Austin next week to be in Texas. So I guess that would be the most of the shipping there. Next question. I don't see any more coming in on Facebook quite yet. Next one I got written down is, how is Little Bay Boards eco-friendly and sustainable for those that don't know? We're eco-friendly and sustainable. We use a wood product rather than chemically based foam that's made in a different country and shipped over here. All the wood that we source is from America. I don't purchase any balsas or polonias or anything that isn't grown in the United States. We use cedar trees, which grow extremely fast and are very sustainable to reforest at all times. The aspen is it's a very popular tree. It's a poplar tree out in Colorado, and it's got a really cool grain pattern to it because it has no grain and it's really white, but it's also a fast growing tree. And when it falls, it rots rather quickly. So it's cool to be able to forest that and get it before it becomes nothing. We can use it forever in a board. Our epoxies are eco-friendly. They're acrylic based. They're not harmful to breathe or anything like that. They're VOC compliant, so we don't have to wear masks or anything to play with them. They don't burn your skin or anything. I hardly ever have gloves on them. They will stain your clothes because they'll make your clothes waterproof and it'll never come off. But other than that, you can't tell that the jugs are open in the room. You know, we have them open all the time, and it's never bothered anybody. Even people that are chemically sensitive to those kind of things don't seem to be bothered by them at all. And then our fiberglass and our epoxies also are made in America and sourced in America. So that's a really cool thing that I always enjoyed, rather than having to purchase them from overseas companies and endure that shipping. So we have the carbon free, we're not 100% carbon free, but we are very low on the carbon part. A lot of our woods I drive to with my pickup truck and pick them up from a mill directly, so we avoid the middleman. And then other ones are shipped in with other mass amounts of woods coming to local stores. So that helps. And then also our product is life lasting. If you were to buy a paddleboard and treat it like a paddleboard, it'll be a paddleboard forever. Just as long as you're not dragging it across concrete or losing it off the top of your car going down the highway, which we can always fix. That does happen every once in a while. We do fix those. It'll be a paddleboard forever. It's not going to deteriorate in the sun. The PVC boards and the foam boards and the inflatable boards that are on the market today are all made from plastic. And as we all know, plastic deteriorates in the sun. It's a funny thing to have an outdoor sports supplied product that essentially breaks down after 7 years of being in the sun. A 10-year-old foam paddleboard is a very, very, very old paddleboard. We do get a lot of those in here to patch them up, and some of them are just too deteriorated away to actually do anything with. So we're not adding to the landfill. That is a world problem. We're not creating garbage. We create something that lasts forever. So that's part of our eco-friendliness, along with how we supply our materials, how we source our materials, what materials we use. Same thing with the laser is a good example. It's a very eco-friendly laser. It runs off of wattage, or it runs off of ampage. How does that work? Runs off of wattage and not amps. So it's a 400 watt system that we have to have a separate power pool condenser for, because America doesn't run off that kind of wattage. But for it to run, it takes hardly any amps, so it doesn't really turn the electric meter when it's running. I mean, it does, but very little amount compared to what a different ran electric system would be. That's a pretty cool thing. I wish I knew a lot more about that. I'm not overly smart when it comes to electrical components and how they all work. I know that there's wattage and ampage and something else. Anyways, look at some more questions that are coming in. Emerson Delaney, he wants to know about the weight of the boards. That's a good question. It's real popular. We are wood boards, and as I had mentioned earlier in the conversation, when I first started building boards, my first board is a little 8-foot board, and it weighs 10 pounds more than my big boards nowadays. And the market back then, a more common board, I won't name any particular companies, were at 45 to 52 pounds was pretty standard practice for a wood paddleboard. And those would be more of like a plywood board. They weren't very pretty or anything like that. They were just made out of wood. They kind of were cool for that factor. Those boards, our boards, I wanted to get down to something that would be comfortable. Like the big thing was my wife being able to carry them, and my children. My girls were very small. They're all getting older nowadays. Been doing this for 13 years. All of them are older. So our boards are anywhere from 25 pounds to 32 pounds is the most normal category of them. Every once in a while we get one that's a little over 32 pounds, 33, maybe 34. Like Coco Pelli, I think is 34. It's over on the wall over there, but it's almost a completely epoxy board rather than a lot of wood to keep it light. And we've had some 24-pound boards, about maybe 6 of them. And that's just a selection of good woods at the right times. And the way that you put them together really helps out. You can have a 2x4 cedar right next to another 2x4 cedar, and there'll be a 3-pound difference in those. And it's just the grain pattern and structure and stuff like that goes into them that makes them denser and heavier. So if you select them just right, you can really get a very, very, very light board. And then all the hollow that's in there, we have a very distinct framing system of a spine and ribs that come out. Paul Jensen invented it. It's pretty standard for any hollow wood board these days. Some people go with crazy honeycombs, stuff like that, but the fishbone is just a really structurally strong, lightweight framing system for hollow wood boards. So that helps with keeping them light. So yeah, anywhere from 25 to 32 pounds is our best average. Any of the boards behind me are all under that 32 pounds. So over that shipwreck back there that's lit up, that might be 33 pounds. And that's just because there's so much epoxy in there. Epoxy tends to be a little bit heavier than wood, so it does add a little bit of weight to the board, but it makes it really cool when it's translucent. All right, any other questions on there? No, it looks like Sean Radell chimed in, needs his fixed again. Sean won a board from a charity event that we did a while back, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even longer than that, maybe 6 years ago. It's probably back in the old shop. We did that for, it was either Brianna's ride or something else. I think it was Brianna's ride, Teen Suicide Awareness foundation. Very important in this general area and all over the world. Teen suicide is definitely something you want to pay attention to. We were lucky enough to be asked to do that, so we donated a board. He won it. He's got it. It's just downstate, not very far from us, maybe like 3 hours from us. And he's had it, like I said, like 6 or 7 years. He's got some kids. They bang it up pretty good. I think he busted the rail on it last time I seen it. And it was no big deal. He dropped it off one day. I worked that day and that night, and he was able to pick it up the next morning, and off he went and rode it. And now it looks like 2 or 3 years later, he needs another fix again, probably the fin. That's one of those things that kids don't really pay attention to too often, and those tend to break sometimes. But again, they're easily patchable. We do it here in shop for free. If it's our fin and it broke off, I'm happy to fix it and not charge you for it. If you did something stupid, I might have to charge you $100. And then I've had occasions where people, like out west, we had a lady out in California who broke her fin off of her board, dropped it off the car, and it broke off. And we located a local place, a local board shop in, I think it was in Santa Cruz or something like that, maybe San Francisco, I don't remember. We found a board shop that was willing to do it, and they just sent us the bill. We paid, it was like $160 for them to do it. I sent the fin out to them. I made a fin for it and sent it to them. And then that worked. I did the same thing in Florida with a lady that had, a contractor had backed his ladder into the board, I think, and knocked it down. And when it fell, it got a little hole punctured in it, a little tiny PSI hole. And we just found a board builder down there and hooked them up, and he took care of it for like $80 or something. And that worked out pretty good. So yeah, Sean, whenever you feel like bringing that board back in, more than happy to fix it all up. Yeah, he just chimed in, said wife tripped over it this time and cracked the fin. Not a big deal. Those are easy to fix. Be happy to do it for you. So that is also a common question that we get all the time. What about the fins? Out of 600 boards that I've built, probably, that might be a little high in the estimate. It's getting pretty close to that by these days, though. I can name off maybe 32 fins that are broken. So it's all in maintenance and care of how you treat your paddleboard. It's kind of like how you treat your car. If you're going to take it down a 2-track and get it all scratched up, it isn't the car's fault. It's just the user's fault. And, things happen, but, a fresh coat of paint makes a BMW. Fixing the fin isn't a big deal for us to do. It's just something we got to schedule in. Usually works out really good in the winter that we schedule those in, but we do them in the summer too. And I've done it before where you drop it off that morning. If we hustle and bustle on it, you can pick it up that night and it'll have a new fin on it, and you'll be good to go, and off you can go riding. So that answers that question. Sean says he's willing to pay. That's very nice of you, Sean. I appreciate that. We'll work it out once you get up here. Let's see. What are other things you make besides boards? We make a lot of stuff. As you can see right directly behind me, there's wall art, chevron labels. Those are just leftover wood that we make. The wakeboards are made out of leftover wood that we make. We make cutting boards from time to time. We make a really cool charcuterie board, particularly here for Michigan. It's got the west coast of Michigan on it, like one of our more popular paddle boards. It's got the west coast on it. And so that way it's half wood and half epoxy. And then with that, we use a food grade epoxy. It's the only food grade epoxy I know of that is FDA approved. There's a lot of other epoxies out there that are soy based and stuff that I believe probably would pass the coating for FDA, but they haven't done it. I'm sure it's probably just a government problem of filling out all the paperwork to be FDA approved. So there's only one resin. It's called art resin. It's FDA approved, dishwasher safe, microwave safe, though I wouldn't recommend microwaving a charcuterie board. Kind of defeats the purpose. But we do that with a really cool blue swirl in it. And Nelly just handed me one so I can show you guys here on the camera. I don't know if you're familiar with these. So charcuterie board. So yeah, it's got that really beautiful swirl to it. And then this maple, when we first started making these, we had a guy donate maple treads to us from a house that he was remodeling, and I shaved them all down and made it. You can see it's really thin. So I was able to get multiple cuts out of the maple that we had. And then as they became more popular, I started sourcing maple from a local supplier here in North Michigan Hardwoods, Rebecca Montai. And so we get our maple there, and then we also get our walnut there. And we put walnut on the back because I always like to have things that are art and beautiful to look at be functional. So you can charcuterie on this side, display it to everybody for your guests and stuff like that. And if you need to, you just flip it over, you can cut on the back. And that is legit just a cutter. I've got some videos on Instagram, me chopping the hell out of cookies one time to show you how strong it is and how minimal it scratches. So that's one of the products we make. We do custom wine boxes, ceremonial wine boxes. Those are kind of starting to take off a little bit more these days. The theory with them is that I'm going to step off cam for just a second, show you, grab them. The theory with the wine box.
I'm going to hold it.
So a custom wine box, we can engrave it with the names. We chose John and Yoko because we think it's funny. They did get married way back in the day. You get the wine box and you get glasses and some candles to go with it. And then it comes with a custom saying that you can put on there. And then on this other side over here is a little gully for notes to be put in. And I always tell everybody, you have your mom write you a note, your dad write you a note, you guys write each other notes. And then maybe your pastor or your officiant write a note to you. And then you lock that up and you wait until your first anniversary and you unlock it and you enjoy the glass of wine and maybe read the letters that you wrote to each other. If you happen to have a situation where you're not getting along for a little while, you can open it up early if you need to and share a bottle of wine together and read the note that your mom gave you because she's always right. And you read that one to figure out what you're going to do. So yeah, we put the Lennon family on the back with their date, everything. We can do that with any name. We try to stay to a certain kind of font because fonts can get really crazy sometimes, but it works out good. Step off camera there again. And then also the charcuterie boards that we're doing right now in Michigan for our local region, we can engrave those with names for like wedding gifts and stuff too, and put their name and the date of when they got married. And then we can also engrave a star, like if they were to get married in Traverse City, we could put a little star there, or out on Mission Point or up in Petoskey also. You know, we put it anywhere around there. We're getting ready to design some that are going to be down in Hilton Head Island, North Carolina. We got some representation down there. It's a partnership. So hopefully we'll have those up and running relatively soon. That's a really cool coastline too. I'm really excited to see how that actually ends up looking on the charcuterie board as time comes, how it'll work out. Let's see, we got Sean Rydell. How much do those run? Charcuterie boards are $125. Anything that I show you today or you have questions about, we have everything on the website with all the pricings and stuff like that of the things we do sell. We do a lot of products that aren't for sale, like product development. Like we've been talking about these lamps that we've been goofing around with that everybody really loves, but we just haven't had time to get past the first part of structuring them to make them built. But you can look on Facebook, scroll down a little ways, and you'll see I got one that I plugged in, but I'm still working on lighting components for that. And we're always doing all kinds of stuff. We have earrings and necklaces, and we're always trying to use all of our leftover products for things. That brings me to a question that my daughter actually asked earlier. She likes the little epoxy things that we do. We have a little box by the front door. So when people come in for tours or to see what we're doing, they usually have kids with them. And we'll send them over to that box and say, that's a free box. You're allowed to take one or two things out of there if you'd like, you know, and if you have brothers that aren't here, or sisters, take something for them too. And we'll make these little epoxy little guys. Like this is just a little lizard. We have these in hundreds of colors, like that. And these are just free for the kids. We do feather pen trays, and these are from our leftover epoxy. Whenever we're coating a board and finishing it all off, pouring epoxy, there's always a little bit left in the bucket. You always want to make sure that you mixed enough to get your project done. So there's always going to be a little left over. And we have silicone molds that you can get, and then it's just molded around as a feather, and you just add some color and you can pour it in there and you can make these cool little feathers. We make little earrings and stuff. I have one of the molds. Clarky just poured this. I don't know what he was doing with this yellow, but he decided to pour some lizards. So you got a lizard that's just stuck in the silicone here, and you just pop them out, and then poof, you got a lizard. So we do earrings out of epoxy. We do a lot of wood earrings and whatnot, and then some pretty cool necklaces and stuff too, paddle themed, surf themed. You know, we try to keep it in that category. So a lot of them are just basically surfboard shapes. But there are some other cool ones. Nellie gets into a couple little feather ones that are really pretty. I think they're really neat to look at. So that's some of the different products that I can think of. Just reading some questions right here. Nothing relevant.
There's a couple. Did the YouTube ones come through there?
I don't. All I see is Facebook.
Oh. Max is asking, what's your favorite lake to pet on? Did you already answer no?
No, I didn't. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Max. Yeah, my favorite lake to paddle on. My favorite spot is to go out on the big lake. Here in Michigan, we're inundated with 1,000,001 little lakes. And I don't mind paddling on those. They're nice and calm water. But when I go paddling, it's really all about. See that one?
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's for me. It's really about my time. Family and kids and business and everything else like that, and a phone constantly stuck to my face and answering questions and phone calls and everything like that. When I go paddling, I don't get to bring that phone, and I don't normally take somebody with me. I do spend a lot of time with children on the front of my board. We do a lot of stuff that way, but I like to go out on the big lake. Nice calm days. I'm not an idiot about it. I do go out surfing every once in a while, like 3-foot or 4-foot waves, things that I know I can control, and I'm not really front side and backside and just going back in on God's graces. But big lake for me, I like to get about a mile off the shore where you can't hear the shore anymore and settle down. I'll usually take a beer with me and kick back and just sit in the sunshine and just listen to the water and start to listen to my own thoughts and reflect on things that have happened in life and, just rebase myself. Much needed. I think everybody should be able to do that at some point or another. And however they need to find that kind of peace. I like it. So yeah, big lake, Lake Michigan, usually Good Harbor Bay down by Grand Traverse. It's kind of like my spot to go to. We do Sturgeon Bay here, which is kind of pretty close to us, about 45 minutes away. And Good Harbor is about maybe 2 hours away, but we vacation there every year quite a bit. We go camping there quite a bit as a family and stuff. And we have other family members that have condos there and stuff. We stay there every once in a while. So I like to get Good Harbor Bay is definitely one of those beaches that you should be charged millions of dollars to get the blissfulness of being able to go there. So that answers that. I did see another one on there. What is your favorite design you have done in paddle boards? My favorite design is always the one that I'm working on. It always seems like I've never been bored with a new project. I really like custom building, having other people's designs, their ideas or their dreams or their thoughts, and transposing all that into an actual functional piece of art has been really enjoyable for me. It's a real big blessing to have somebody come up with an idea like that, and we have to sit down and figure out how to make that actually work. The structures that go into it and all the different components of wood and everything. I really enjoy that part a ton. We got some cool boards in the back that we're working on right now, and every one that I get a chance to work on is cool. I mean, I just like working. I like working with my hands. I like building things. I built like just a dummy rack yesterday and just enjoyed myself for the 2 hours that I got to do it. And it's just a practice rack to see if the sizing is going to work for some wakeboards that we're doing. But I like building. I built homes for 20 years before this took off. So I've always liked being able to create things. That's definitely been a real big blessing of mine. Vanessa Clark, tell us about the car outside in front of your shop. She's talking about the old 55 Ford. That was not my car. That was our last partner's car. He was a car collector. He still is a car collector, and he's still a very good friend of ours. He came on about 2 years ago to help us with partnership of investment and financially guide us on our paths. And he spent about 2 years doing it, and he got close to retirement age and didn't really want to do it anymore. So he wanted to retire from our company. So we had to go find new investors, which I'm sure most of you followers that follow us pretty in-depthly remember back in September, we had to put the building up for sale on the company. And that's been a whirlwind of things that have happened for a while, but we always came back on top. My famous quote is, I'm too stupid to quit. So I always figure out a way to keep going. Been very fortunate with a new partnership, a new family, actually family friends of ours that came on board. And involve their family. And it's been a really enjoyable past couple of weeks of getting that worked out. There's a lot of things that onboarding that go on with that process, but feeling pretty blessed about that one. So far it's going really well. So that old Ford truck had to go back to our old investor, back to his car museum. He's building a car museum, which I actually work at. I still work for him at night, helping him build his museum, which I'm really enjoying too. There's a really fun project. Hopefully that'll be open this summer, and I think it'll be private at first, but it might have small public adventures or showings that it'll do. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that truck's gone. I got to figure out what to put in the parking lot next summer, because that's definitely a real good way to get curbside appeal and people to stop and notice because our building is just kind of like a big pool building. So when they see that old truck with the boards on it, they stop and turn around and realize there's a sign, and then we get foot traffic that way, which ends up being sales, or they get inspired by seeing things, tell their family members, and more people show up. And that's the whole process of this little company's built up off of word of mouth of making something really cool and other people talking about it is the only way that we've grown to what we are nowadays. We've never really done a marketing format or had marketing people. We've just been really fortunate to make a really cool product that people talk about. That works out good.
Did you see Jill?
No.
She's so proud of you.
Oh, is that Jill?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All these just say Facebook user on them.
Oh.
What type of wake surfboards do you build? Well, thanks, Max. That's a good question. A few years back, I got to hang out with a group of professional wake surfers that happened to be in town to be doing some videos for something. I don't remember what it was at the time, but I was able to go out with them on their boat. And it was 4 different people. And I got to talk to them about their favorite designs of what they had going on. And I was able to take those after that video session they had. They were making like commercials or something. And I was just hanging out with them, showing them some of the woodwork that I did stuff. They brought their boards into the shop. We hung out again, drank some beers. I got some notes off of them, what they liked about their favorite board and what they didn't like about their favorite board. And I made templates off of those. So I have 4 template designs on wakeboards. I call them Skippy 2.0. And then we have a Kahona. And I forget what the 4th one is.
Skippy.
Another Skippy.
2.0.
Yeah, Skippy 3.0 probably, yeah. So a 4-footer, 4'4", 4'6", and then the Kona goes all the way up to 5 foot. I think it's just right at 5 foot. They're really cool designs. They're all individually shaped. Like I said, I templated off of already mastered boards beforehand and just made them into wood shapings and shape forms for them. And then our 5'9" fish board that I was talking about earlier has been a really popular wakeboard. Surfboard that is designed for the ocean, but it rides really nice behind a boat, really, really well. And it's really good for all size people. It's just in that magic, perfect sizing for, a small child can ride it. And then an adult like me, that's 230 pounds, ride it also. So that's definitely a real popular one. It's becoming more and more. We just started dabbling and building those. And I think we've probably sold maybe 20 of them so far in the last 19 months. Oh, what other questions we got? No other questions on that one. Oh, Sharon Prochnow says she has a pair of our earrings. She's actually my wife's aunt out in Arizona. Fantastic woman. All right. Nora's question. Shawnee, my other daughter, asked, who's behind the scenes? How come they're not on camera more often? That's a good question. Nellie Eve has been the staple and the brain of this company since my garage days, basically. Back in my old shop, long before investors or big tooling or anything, when I was just building things by hand and having fun. She came on board and started learning how to build boards, and we quickly realized that her set of skills and talents were more she's good at building boards, don't get me wrong. She's diligent about working hard and doing what needs to be done. And she was pretty good at it, but she was really good at organizing a website, and she was really good at organizing advertising, and she was really good at making paperwork and teaching me that I had to pay taxes and those kind of things. And we started working together with her qualities and my qualities of building boards. And that's when we started reaching out to different people and started rolling in this investment thing and trying to build a company up to be a bigger thing. And she's been here for 6 years now, putting up with me and all the headaches and craziness that goes on with building boards and trying to make a business, inventing a business. Nobody has a Hollywood board business like we do. So there's not a lot of people we can call and ask, about the struggles that we go through. We slowly figure them out. But yeah, she's helped with all of our investors and all of our onboarding and stuff like that. And then Clarky, everybody I'm sure is real familiar with me saying Clarky all the time. He's in the back right now working quietly because he knows we're doing a video. He's not so much a big camera guy. I mean, he likes to talk every once in a while, but he'd rather be doing things with his hands at all times, which I would too. In all honesty, I'm better off with a headset on, staring at a board than I am in the public persona, but I do it and it's part of the job. I have to do it. So Clarky came to us 3 or 4 years ago when we were building the company up. We built the company up to about nine employees at one point when we had an investor that was steering us in a path that didn't work out. And Clarky came to us to sweep floors. He was just going to help out while we had board builders, just, service, give us, pick up wood for us or move things or sweep floors, clean up after us, organize our inventory, stuff like that. And I'd started just teaching him just little things on boards here and there. And he just had a natural gift that you could just see. I mean, he was really, really diligent about how he did things and how he, real focused and paid attention to my directions on how to do things. And he started to become pretty damn good at what he was doing. And at the time when we had to switch investors from that investor that had us with all a bunch of employees and stuff like that, when he left and we had to get rid of all of our employees, and I too stupid to say I'm done, I found another investor. I had the option to hire one other person back in case anything ever happened to me as far as board building. You want to make sure that production's going at all times. Nellie came with the package deal. There's no question. You can't build a company without Nellie. You have to have her. And I had to look at the other employees that we had at the time. I hope they're not watching this. I'm not going to say anything bad about any of them. But at the time when it was time to lay everybody off, I told them on a Friday that they had 2 weeks and we had to lay everybody off. And in that 2 weeks, we had to do inventory and get everything ready to try to sell the company to somebody. Clarky came back that Monday with a job. And I was like, wow, all right, cool. You way to get on it, man. Good job. He's like, yeah, I always got to be doing something. I was like, well, you can go to it. And he's like, no, I'm good for the 2 weeks and I'll start after that. I was like, okay. So long story short, we close up shop. Everybody goes on unemployment. I stay here in the shop with the lights off working and still satisfying orders and trying to find a buyer for the company and everything. And God's graces, I was able to be introduced to Steve, who was our last investor, and he was able to pull us out of what we were doing. And when it came time to hire people back, I ran into Clarky, and it had been, I don't know, like 40 days, something like that. And he came out to the winery. My in-laws own a winery. He was hanging out there having some wine and watching my daughter play guitar. And I asked him if he liked his job, and he said, no, I hate it. I was like, why are you still doing it? And he's like, oh, I have to have a job. I was like, well, that's admirable. Would you like to come back to Little Bay Boards if I can get it up and running? He's like, absolutely, no question to it. And I was like, all right. So I pondered on that thought for a couple of days. And then I looked at the unemployment report and realized that everybody else is on unemployment still. And he had never claimed it and had a job before he had left here. So he had to put in his 2 weeks on that job and came back. And it was a really good choice as far as how hard that kid works is unbelievable. Same thing with Nellie. These guys are more devoted than any boss should have for employees. I'm not technically the boss. I just started the company. But they work harder than anybody I've ever met in my life. I mean, they are here, no question to it, whenever they need to be. Late nights, early mornings, weekends, late night phone calls, emails, figuring things out, redesigning the website for 20 hours in a row, just all the little things that need to happen. So the people behind the scenes, they like to be behind the scenes, I think. I don't think Nellie really likes to be on camera, none too much, but she's good at what she does. And, everybody's got the talents that they need to run with. And there's just happened to be not so much on screen. Clarky did just do a video on Instagram that turned out pretty good of him starting to build a board out of some old post signs, some 4x4s that we had that had a sign for us. So that was fun. He did a pretty good job on it too. It was nice. Let's see some more questions. Have you thought about reaching out to the people who have boards to post on my Bay boards? Yeah, we do have another private group. Yeah, it's a private group. It's for the owners of Little Bay boards, and they're allowed to join this group, and then they can share like places that they paddle or stories about paddling on their paddleboard and stuff like that. And in all honesty, we don't manage it very well. We're really busy in the shop. Like I mentioned, Nellie does everything that takes a brain to do, and I do everything that takes woodworking and brawn to do. And we're in pretty high demand as far as we wear a lot of hats all the time, and we're always busy with stuff like that. So we don't do as much service to that as we should. And that is a regret by both of us to pay more attention to the customers that we do have. And I don't mean it as a bad thing towards anybody, but it's really hard to keep up with stuff a lot of times. So that's the only thing basically happening there. Nelly did just have a post on it a couple weeks ago to see if anybody was doing anything fun in the winter. But it's something that we could be a little bit more diligent about posting and trying to befriend. I know, Emerson, you're the person that asked that question. I know you hooked up with Troy Hill via that whole thing, and have gone paddling together and stuff. And it's neat to see customers that didn't previously know each other become friends and talk to each other. I see you guys comment on each other's stuff and congratulate each other's on birthdays and stuff like that. Because that's pretty inspiring. It's definitely cool. Oh, what else we got in here? Brianna Marshall, Clarkie's the best. Yes, he is. Yep, there's no question into that. We're very blessed to have him. He's a very gifted, kind, spirited young man. He's just a joy to have around. I've never seen him, well, maybe once in 3 years, I've seen him in a bad mood. He's always just in a happy mood, always giggling. He's a hell of a singer. If anybody doesn't know, he can sing in this shop all day long. Boy, it's amazing. All right, moving on from those questions online.
We got 3 minutes.
3 minutes to wrap this up. Cool. That's awesome. I'm glad that I was able to fill in an hour so far. A question about boards for reasons, still a thing. Technically not on paper. It isn't. I had originally started boards for reasons back in the day of trying to figure out a way to be more charitable and use those occasions to obviously feel better about being a human by helping other humans. And I thought that if I started my own charity, I would be able to figure out a way to processing monies. Like if people wanted to donate, for a long time, I had like a monthly donation thing that people could sign up for. And, they donate like $5 a month or whatever, but there was a group of them. And between that group of 20 some people, over a 6-month period, I'd have enough to cover the cost of the materials for donating a board. And then I'd throw in the hours of my personal hours for free, technically. And we'd be able to build a board and donate it to people. My original thought was if I could make it into a nonprofit, I could be able to build a board and raffle it for multiple different things. Like you have a local person's house burnt down, or somebody that got stricken with cancer and has children, and I want to be able to help them. I don't have the funding for that. I'm a poor board builder. So I thought that would be a good way to do that. And I started it and it worked really good for a little while. And then there was some financing problems with that, or tax reasons where it had to be its own tax identity, and it's hard to keep track of all that. And the donations coming in, I had to have a second bank account, and there's a lot more that went to it than what I had realized, how hard it is to just be charitable and, get a group of people together to be charitable together becomes more difficult at times. So I just kind of let it go down the way, and we've moved on from that to just straight up personal donations that we do. Like I'm working with St. Francis. I was just there this morning with St. Francis Catholic School here in Petoskey. I've worked with them for 10 years in a row, always donating a board. A couple times we did a table, but it's always normally been a board. And they use it and they auction it off to help fund their private funded school. So with them, we just make an agreement as far as a team of we know we're going to lose the money on the materials, and we try to do the hours and extra, but I always make the kids come in and build the boards. So it ends up kind of basically just costing us more because we got to teach the kids how to do it and we lose hours. But it's fun and it's inspiring, and I love to make kids get their hands dirty and get hands-on and build things. They just designed a really cool board this morning, and I'm looking forward to showing it to the world when we get a chance to build it and make it happen. And then other multiple charities, when they approach us, we try to do it in an honest format of, if you can cover the materials, we'll give you the board for free to take to your event, auction it off. And if you can at least get the retainer on it to pay us back what the materials were, you can keep whatever else you made on top of that. And that seems to work really good for charity, because then it's no money up front for them. And if something was to happen and they didn't get a big showing for their event or anything, and they didn't get the money for it, then they can just bring it back, or I'll go pick it up and, we just take it back. We've done that for multiple different things, and it's actually worked out quite well, and it's a lot of times it's not a huge thing that they make a lot of money on it, but $300 is $300 sometimes, it's more than what I would have been able to give privately. So it works out for them, and it helps us to get our word out of what our product is, a little more frequently to people in big areas like that. Sometimes it works out really good and the board goes for an amazing amount of money. St. Francis last year did a a certain style of auction for it, and I made $21,000. I was, in tears sitting there watching that go. It just kept going and going and going and going and going. They were able to get a new gym floor because the kids built a board, and I taught them how to build a board. I mean, that's a pretty big thing for a school. So I'm lucky and blessed to be able to do that. So yeah, we'll figure out what we're going to do with Boards for Reasons. We still own the name. We'd have to start up different bank accounts and stuff like that. So eventually we'll get to that. Let's see. Leela says, thank you, LBB, for all you do for the community. Thanks, Leela. That's Clarky's mom. She's definitely a proud mama. She's got a lot of reasons to be. She raised a really good boy. He's definitely just a little blessing. All right. I think other than that, I'm wrapping up my hour. I appreciate all you guys checking in and asking questions. If you think of any other questions, you can always feel free to reach out to us, via website, email. You can call us. Phone numbers on the website, Facebook message us, Instagram, any of the above. Always happy to answer anything. If there's any board builders out there, I'm always happy to take a phone call, talk about board building. If there's anything I can share to make life easier for you on building boards, I've been doing it for a long time. I got a couple little cheats that I know how to do, or things to look out for, or tools to use, or products that are better. Feel free to reach out. Other than that, cheers. Thank you guys for everything. Have a good winter, and we'll probably do this again sometime.